I'm Marcus Thornton, 44, a civil engineer who spent 2 decades building bridges and infrastructure for our community. Last Tuesday, what started as a routine property dispute with my neighbor spiraled into my worst nightmare when police sirens filled my driveway. "Marcus Thornton, you're under arrest for assault," the officer said, cuffing me in front of my teenage daughter. When I tried to explain that I had security footage proving I was at a job site during the alleged incident, the lead detective cut me off. "Your story doesn't matter. We have a complainant." As they pushed me into the patrol car, I realized this wasn't about justice, it was about something much darker. If you've ever been betrayed by the system meant to protect you, hit that like button, because what happened next exposed a conspiracy that went all the way to the mayor's office.
Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you.
3 months before that horrible Tuesday, I was standing in my backyard with a cup of coffee, planning the deck renovation Sarah and I had been dreaming about for years. That's when I noticed it. The new fence my neighbor Robert Dalton had installed wasn't where the old one had been. It was a good 8 feet onto my property. At first I thought it was an honest mistake. Dalton had moved in 2 years ago, and while we weren't friends, we'd always been cordial. I walked over that afternoon with the property survey I'd had done when we bought the house 15 years ago. "Hey Robert," I called out when I saw him in his garage. "Got a minute?" He looked up from whatever he was working on, his expression immediately guarded. "What do you want, Thornton?" The hostility caught me off guard. "It's about the new fence. I think there might be a misunderstanding about the property line." I showed him the survey documents, pointing out the official markers. The fence was clearly on my property, cutting into the space where I'd planned to extend the deck. "That survey's old," he said, barely glancing at it. "Lines change. Property lines don't just change." "Robert, look, I'm not trying to make this difficult. Maybe we can split the cost of moving it to the correct. The fence stays where it is." His voice had turned cold, dangerous even. He stepped closer, and I could smell beer on his breath, even though it was barely past noon. "You don't know who you're messing with, Thornton. I've got friends in this town, important friends." "I'm not messing with anyone," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I'm just asking you to move your fence off my property." "Or what?" he smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You'll sue me. Go ahead, see how far that gets you." I left that day thinking he was just being a difficult neighbor. I had no idea he was actually warning me. Over the next few weeks, I tried the proper channels. I hired a professional surveyor to create updated documentation. I filed a complaint with the city. I even offered to pay for the entire fence relocation myself. Each attempt was met with increasing hostility. Dalton would glare at me whenever our paths crossed. He started playing loud music late at night, always aimed at our bedroom window. Once, I found nails scattered behind my truck tires. Sarah tried to play peacemaker. "Maybe we should just let it go," she suggested one evening. 8 feet isn't worth all this stress. But it wasn't about the 8 feet anymore. It was about the principle. I'd built my career on precision, on making sure foundations were solid and structures were true. I couldn't just ignore someone stealing my property, no matter how small the theft. The morning I filed the official legal paperwork, Dalton was waiting by my truck. "Last chance, Thornton. Drop this now, or you'll regret it." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." He leaned against my truck, his hand leaving a deliberate scratch along the paint. "You have no idea what you're starting here. This goes way beyond a fence." I should have listened. I should have recognized the desperation in his eyes, the fear hiding behind his aggression, but all I saw was a bully trying to intimidate me. I'd dealt with difficult contractors and stubborn bureaucrats my entire career. I thought I could handle one problematic neighbor. I was wrong. The day everything went to hell started like any other. I left the house at 6:30 a.m., kissing Sarah goodbye as she prepared for her flight to Seattle. Emma was still asleep, and their summer schedules. I had a major inspection at the Riverside Bridge project, 40 miles north of town. The concrete pour was scheduled for the next day, and everything had to be perfect. My foreman, Mike Rodriguez, met me at the site with coffee and the inspection checklist. "Morning, boss. Ready for a long day?" We spent the morning checking rebar placement, confirming the formwork, double-checking every measurement. This was a $2.8 million project, and my reputation was on every beam and joint. I took photos throughout the day, as I always did, uploading them to our project cloud with automatic Timex. At 2:47 p.m. I was 40 feet in the air on the bridge deck, discussing expansion joint specifications with the state inspector. I remember the exact time because Mike had just reminded me about a 3 p.m. conference call with the architects. My phone logged into the construction site's Wi-Fi, creating another digital footprint of my presence. The call lasted until 3:45. After that, I stayed on site until almost 5 p.m. reviewing final preparations with my 12-person crew. Each of them saw me, talked to me, worked alongside me. Jose Martinez even borrowed my measuring tape at 4:30 when his broke. These were facts, indisputable and documented, which is why I was so confused when the police cruisers pulled into my driveway at 6 p.m. I was in the garage, organizing my tools, when I heard the sirens. My first thought was that something had happened to one of the neighbors. Then I saw them walking up my driveway, 3 officers, hands on their weapons. Marcus Thornton, the lead officer, was young, nervous. "Yes, what's going on?" "You're under arrest for assault and battery. Please turn around and put your hands behind your back." "Assault? There must be some mistake." "I haven't, sir. Please comply." His hand moved to his taser. Emma had come out of the house, probably drawn by the sirens. "Dad, what's happening?" "It's okay, honey. There's been a misunderstanding." I kept my voice calm even as my mind raced. "Call Uncle David. Tell him what's happening." As they cuffed me, Detective Morrison arrived. He was older, with cold eyes, and a smile that didn't reach them. "Mr. Thornton, you're being arrested for the assault of Robert Dalton that occurred today at 2:47 p.m. "That's impossible. I was at a job site in Riverside. I have witnesses, photos, everything." He leaned in, close. "Your story doesn't matter. We have a complainant with injuries and a witness statement. Save it for your lawyer." Emma had her phone out, recording everything. "Smart girl." "Dad didn't do anything wrong," she shouted. "He's been at work all day." "Miss, please step back," one of the officers warned. They read me my rights as they walked me to the patrol car. The entire neighborhood was watching. Mrs. Chen from across the street had a hand over her mouth. Tom Bradley from 2 houses down was shaking his head as they pushed me into the back seat. I caught sight of Dalton standing in his doorway. He had a black eye and was holding his ribs, but there was something off about his posture. He was trying too hard to look injured. That's when I knew this wasn't a mistake. This was exactly what he'd warned me about. The county jail smelled like disinfectant and despair. They took my belt, my shoelaces, my wallet, my dignity. Each step of the booking process felt designed to strip away another piece of who I was. Marcus Thornton, respected engineer, became inmate number 89,734. Face forward, turn left, turn right. The booking photographer sounded bored. How many innocent people had stood where I was standing? The flash went off, capturing my shock, my disbelief. The moment my life changed forever. Officer Jenkins processed my fingerprints. I recognized him from the Riverside Community Center project I'd managed 3 years ago. His kids had played in the basketball court we'd built. "Mr. Thornton," he kept his voice low. "What are you doing here?" "I wish I knew, Carl. This is all a mistake." He glanced around, then leaned closer. "This doesn't feel right. You're not the type." Paused, pressing my fingers onto the electronic scanner. "Be careful in here. Keep your head down." They gave me an orange jumpsuit that smelled like industrial laundry soap and other people's fear. The holding cell was a concrete box with a metal bench and a toilet that offered no privacy. 3 other men were already inside, sleeping off whatever had brought them here, one pacing like a caged animal. The pacer looked me up and down. First time I nodded. Double quotes, "Figured you got that this can't be happening to me." "Look." He sat down, keeping a respectful distance. "I'm Tommy Third, do I?" He said it like he was introducing himself at a business meeting. "Marcus's assault charges, but I didn't save it, man. Everyone in here is innocent." But his tone wasn't mocking. Just matter of fact. "Who's your arresting officer?" Detective Morrison brought the charges. Tommy's expression changed. "Morrison, shit, man. You're fucked." He lowered his voice. "That guy's dirty as they come. Has been for years." "Who'd you piss off?" "My neighbor, Robert Dalton." "Dalton, .. double quotes." Tommy snapped his fingers. "Big guy, drives the black Escalade. Works for the city." "That's him. His brother-in-law's a cop." "Morrison. They say he's connected all the way up to the mayor's office." Tommy shook his head. "Whatever you did to Dalton, you better undo it fast." Before I could respond, a guard called my name. "Thornton, bail." Hearing. The video judge looked tired, reading from a screen. The prosecutor asked for $100,000 bail, calling me a danger to the community. My court-appointed lawyer, who I'd met 30 seconds before the hearing, argued for release on my own recognizance. Bail set at $50,000, the judge declared, splitting the difference without looking up. $50,000. For a crime I didn't commit. Back in the cell, I finally got my phone call. David answered on the first ring. "Marcus, Emma called me. I'm already on my way. Are you okay? I need you to bring bail money." And David, this isn't what it looks like. "I was at the Riverside site all day. I have proof. I know you didn't do this. We'll figure it out. Sarah knows. She's at her conference." "Don't call her yet. Let me." "Time's up," the guard interrupted. As I handed back the phone, I heard Tommy from his corner of the cell. "Free advice. Whatever proof you think you got, make copies. Things have a way of disappearing when Morrison's involved." I spent the next 4 hours on that metal bench, replaying every interaction with Dalton, trying to understand how a fence dispute had led to this. Outside, the sun was setting on what had been a normal Tuesday morning. Inside, I was learning that normal was a luxury I'd taken for granted. David arrived at 10:47 p.m. with bail money and a determination I'd only seen when he was preparing for major corporate litigation. My younger brother had traded his usual designer suit for jeans and a Yale Law sweatshirt, but his mind was sharp as ever. "First things first," he said as we walked to his Mercedes. "We're going to document everything. before anyone has a chance to make evidence disappear. Tommy, my cellmate, he said the same thing about evidence disappearing. Smart cellmate Morrison has a reputation. David's jaw tightened. I made some calls on the way here. This isn't his first rodeo. We drove straight to my office at Thornton Engineering. The security system logged our entry at 11:23 p.m. David had brought his laptop and a portable hard drive. Show me everything from today, he ordered. I pulled up the Riverside Bridge project folder. Every photo I'd taken was there, uploaded automatically with timestamps and GPS coordinates. The first one at 7:14 a.m. showed me with Mike and the sunrise behind us. The crucial ones were from 2:30 to 3 p.m., exactly when Dalton claimed I was assaulting him 40 miles away. This is perfect, David muttered, copying files. Look at this one. He pointed to a photo timestamped 2:47 p.m. I was clearly visible. On the bridge deck, the state inspector beside me, 7 construction workers in the background. The exact minute of the alleged assault. We downloaded the site's Wi-Fi logs showing my phone's connection, the conference call records, even the security footage from the construction trailer. By 1 a.m. we had a digital fortress of proof. Now we get witness statements, David said. How many people saw you today? My whole crew, 12 workers, plus Mike, the state inspector, 3 architects on the video call. We need them all on record before anyone gets to them. Mike Rodriguez answered his phone despite the late hour. Marcus, I heard what happened. This is bullshit, boss. Mike, I need you to write down everything about today. What time I arrived, what we did, when you last saw me. Already did. Soon as I heard, I called the crew. We all wrote statements. Jose even remembered you lending him your tape measure at 4:30. We got your back. By 3 a.m. we had 17 sworn statements, all confirming my presence at the job site. David had worked his network to a judge friend, agreed to review the case first thing in the morning, and a criminal defense attorney named Patricia Knox was flying in from Chicago. This should be enough to get the charges dropped immediately, David said, organizing the evidence. No prosecutor would move forward with this. But as we sat in my home office, something felt wrong. Why would Dalton do this, knowing I had an alibi? David's expression darkened. Maybe he doesn't care about conviction. Maybe this is about something else. Like what? Leverage, intimidation, making your life hell until you give him what he wants. He pulled up property records on his laptop. Let's see what's really going on with that fence dispute. What we found made my blood run cold. 3 months ago, just before Dalton built his fence, a company called Pinnacle Development, LLC had filed plans for a massive mixed-use development. The proposed site included Dalton's property ... and mine. They need your land, David said quietly. And if you're tied up in criminal court, drowning in legal fees, your reputation destroyed. How long before you'd sell just to make it stop? But I have evidence this won't hold up. David gave me a look I'd never seen before, part lawyer, part protective brother, all concerned. Marcus, in my experience, when this much money is involved, evidence has a way of becoming ... complicated. We need to be very careful about our next moves. As dawn broke through my office windows, I realized this wasn't about a fence anymore. It had never been about a fence. I was standing in the way of something much bigger, and someone had decided I needed to be removed. The question was, how far were they willing to go? Sarah burst through the door at 7 a.m. still in her conference clothes, eyes red from crying and lack of sleep. I drove straight from the airport. Emma told me everything. This is insane. Mom. Emma ran into her arms. Our daughter had stayed up all night to her laptop open to news sites and social media pages. I'm okay, I assured them both, though the weight of the situation was crushing. David and I have been gathering evidence. This is all going to be cleared up, Dad. I posted the arrest video, Emma said quietly. It already has 50,000 views. People are angry. David looked up from his laptop. That might actually help. Public pressure can be useful. He turned the screen toward us. But we need to talk about what I've found. The web he'd uncovered was intricate and disturbing. Robert Dalton wasn't just connected, he was integral to a larger machine. His wife, Jennifer Dalton, sat on the City Planning Commission. She'd voted on every zoning change that benefited Pinnacle Development. But the real bombshell was her maiden name, Morrison. Detective Morrison is Dalton's brother-in-law, David explained. They've been running this game for years. Look at this pattern. He showed us a spreadsheet he'd created. 7 families in 5 years, all forced to sell their properties after legal troubles. The Chensfall's vandalism charges, the Washington's bogus code violations, the Martinez's assault charges, later dropped. Every single property ended up in Pinnacle Development's portfolio within 6 months. And here's where it gets worse, David continued. He pulled up campaign finance records. Pinnacle Development's board includes 3 of Mayor Richardson's biggest donors. They've contributed over $500,000 to his campaigns. Sarah's face went pale. The mayor's involved. Follow the money. The Riverside Gardens development alone is worth $30 million to the city in tax revenue. Your property is the last piece they need for Phase 2. Emma had been searching on her laptop. Dad, look at this. 3 months ago, there was a city council meeting. She showed us the minutes. They discussed strategic property acquisition for urban development. Dalton was there as a concerned citizen. I read through the minutes, my anger building with each line. They'd been planning this. My property was specifically mentioned as a challenge to be addressed. We need to take this to the FBI, Sarah said. This is corruption, racketeering. We need to be smart, David interrupted. These people have been doing this for years without getting caught. They have judges, prosecutors, police. We don't know how deep this goes. My phone rang. Patricia Knox, the defense attorney David had contacted. Mr. Thornton, I've reviewed your case file. The evidence against you is laughable, but that's what concerns me. No competent prosecutor would file these charges unless they had another agenda. We need to meet immediately. An hour later, we sat in Patricia's temporary conference room at the Marriott. She was everything you'd want in a defense attorney. Sharp, experienced, and absolutely ruthless when necessary. In 30 years of practice, I've seen this playbook before, she said, reviewing our evidence. They don't need to convict you. They need to bleed you dry financially, emotionally, professionally. Most people fold within 6 months. I'm not most people, I said. Good, because beating the charges is just the beginning. The real fight is exposing the system behind them. She looked at each of us. Are you prepared for what that means? They'll come after your job, your reputation, your family. Nothing will be off limits. Sarah took my hand. We're not backing down. They picked the wrong family. Patricia smiled for the first time. Then let's give them hell. But first, we need to document everything from now on. Assume you're being watched, recorded, followed. These people have resources and no scruples about using them. As we left the hotel, I noticed a black sedan pulling out behind us. It followed us for 3 turns before disappearing. The game had begun, and we were already playing catch-up. The anonymous note appeared under our door at 3 a.m. 3 days after my arrest. Sarah found it when she got up for water, her scream waking the entire house. Drop the fence, dispute, or worse is coming. The words were printed in block letters on plain white paper. No signature, no identifying marks, but the message was clear. This wasn't about property lines anymore. We're calling the police, Sarah said, her hands shaking. The police. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Sarah, the police are the ones who arrested me for a crime I didn't commit. Emma stood in the hallway, clutching her phone. I'm scared, Dad. What if they come after us? I pulled both of them close. Nobody's going to hurt you. I promise, but could I keep that promise? When I went outside that morning, I found my work truck vandalized. All 4 tires slashed, windows smashed, and carved into the driver's door. Last warning, Mike Rodriguez pulled up as I was documenting the damage. Jesus, Marcus, this is getting serious. Tell me about it. I showed him the note. You need protection, boss. I know some guys know. I shook my head. That's what they want. For me to do something stupid, give them real ammunition. Sarah had called a family meeting for that evening. David arrived with Chinese takeout and a grim expression. Patricia Knox joined us, along with someone new, a private investigator named Rebecca Santos. We need to discuss our options, Sarah began, her doctor's composure barely holding. This morning, I received a call at the hospital. Someone suggested I should be more careful about my husband's activities. They mentioned Emma's school, her schedule. Emma's face went white. They threatened me. Not directly, Patricia said. They're careful. Everything is implied. Nothing actionable. It's psychological warfare. Rebecca Santos spoke up. She was younger than I'd expected. Maybe 35, with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. I've been investigating Dalton and Morrison for the past 48 hours. This is their pattern: escalating intimidation until the target breaks. So what do we do? Sarah asked. You have 3 options, Patricia said. 1. Drop everything. Sell the property. Move away. Start over. It's what most people do. Not happening, I said immediately. 2. Try to negotiate. Maybe they'll settle for just the fence dispute if you drop any investigation into their activities. Also not happening, Sarah said firmly. 3. Fight back. But understand, this means total war. They've been playing this game for years. They know every dirty trick, have every advantage. Emma, who'd been quiet, suddenly stood up. I vote fight. Her voice was stronger than I'd heard in days. They threatened our family. They vandalized our property. They arrested Dad for something he didn't do. I'm tired of being scared. Emma, Sarah started. No, Mum, I'm 16, not 6. I understand what's happening. They think we'll fold because we're good people, because we play by the rules. But maybe it's time to change the rules. David nodded slowly. The kid's got a point. They've been counting on fear. But what happens when we stop being afraid? Rebecca pulled out a folder. If we're doing this, we need to be smart. I've already started building profiles on all the players. Dalton has a gambling problem. Money to some dangerous people. Morrison's going through an expensive divorce. The mayor has his own secrets. Everyone has pressure points. We're not becoming them, I said firmly. We fight, but we fight clean. Clean doesn't mean stupid, Rebecca countered. It means documented, legal, and strategic. For instance, That arrest video Emma posted, it's already led to 3 other victims reaching out to me. People who were too scared to speak up before Patricia stood. Then it's decided. We fight. But from now on, security measures, cameras everywhere. Vary your routines. Emma, you'll have someone watching you at school discreetly. Sarah, same. At the hospital. This is insane, Sarah muttered. We're living like we're in witness protection. Because essentially, you are, Patricia replied. These people have shown they'll do anything to get what they want. Our job is to make sure they don't get it. As everyone prepared to leave, I walked them out. The street was quiet, but I could feel eyes watching. A car at the corner had been there for hours. They picked the wrong family, I said, echoing Sarah's earlier words. David clapped me on the shoulder. Yes, they did. But brother, this is going to get worse before it gets better. Are you ready for that? I looked back at my house, where my wife and daughter were installing new security cameras, refusing to be victims. We're ready. Rebecca Santos worked like a surgeon, precise and methodical. Within a week, she'd assembled a disturbing portrait of systematic corruption that made our situation look like part of a much larger pattern. Coffee, I offered as she spread files across my dining room table. It was 6 a.m., but she'd been working all night. My blood is basically caffeine at this point, she said, accepting the mug. Marcus, what I'm about to show you, it's going to make you angry, but anger is good. It'll keep you fighting. The first file was Chen Williams. I recognized the name from the neighborhood association. The Williamses moved 2 years ago. I said, nice family. Their daughter was Emma's age. They didn't want to move. Rebecca showed me police reports, court documents. Chen was accused of stealing equipment from his employer. Charges were dropped after he agreed to sell his house to a cash buyer. Guess who handled the sale? Pinnacle Development. Through a shell company. But yes, the stolen equipment was later found in a storage unit rented under a fake name. The unit was paid for with a credit card traced back to ... double quotes. She paused for effect. Robert Dalton's business account. He framed Chen Williams, him or someone, in his network. Here's the pattern. Williams' property was needed for Phase 1 of Riverside Gardens. He refused 3 offers. Then came the theft charges. She opened another file. The Washingtons, an elderly couple who'd lived here for 40 years. Code violations had buried them in fines until they sold. The inspector who'd issued the violations was Morrison's cousin. The Martinezes were the worst. Jorge Martinez had been coaching youth soccer, beloved in the community. Accused of inappropriate conduct with a player. No evidence. Charges dropped, but the damage was done. They sold within a month and left the state. The accuser later recanted, Rebecca said quietly. Said someone paid her to lie. She was too scared to say who. This is monstrous, I breathed. It's business, their business. Rebecca pulled out a map marked with red X's. Every property they've acquired sits on the Riverside Gardens development plan. Yours is the last piece they need for Phase 2, a shopping complex with water views. How much money are we talking about? For the complete development, north of $100 million. Your property alone is worth maybe $400,000 on the market, but to them, it's the keystone. Without it, Phase 2 fails. So they'll do anything to get it. They already are. She showed me surveillance photos. This is you being followed to work. Sarah at the hospital. Emma at school. They're watching, waiting for an opening. My phone buzzed. Mike Rodriguez. Boss, you need to hear this. One of my guys, Terry, his brother works IT for the city. He says there's been chatter about you in internal emails. Morrison's been asking about your city contracts, looking for leverage. They're going after my business. Now looks like it. Terry's brother is scared, but he might be willing to talk. Off the record, I relayed this to Rebecca. Her eyes lit up. An inside source. That could be huge. Set up a meeting. 2 nights later, we met Terry Kim in an empty parking garage. His choice. He was nervous, constantly checking his mirrors. I could lose my job for this, he said. But what they're doing is wrong. I've seen the emails, the communications between Morrison and Dalton. They plan everything, the charges, the timing, even which judge to aim for. We need copies, Rebecca said. I can't. They monitor everything, but ... He hesitated. There's Everson, a backup server. Old emails they think were deleted. Morrison doesn't know about it because it predates his brother-in-law giving him admin access. What's on it? 5 years of communications. Every family they've targeted. Every dirty trick. Even some stuff about the mayor. Rebecca leaned forward. Can you get us access? Maybe. Give me a few days, but if they catch me ... They won't. I promised. We protect our sources. As Terry drove away, Rebecca turned to me. This could be it. The evidence we need to bring them all down or get us all killed, I muttered. They're bullies, Marcus. Bullies with power, but still bullies. And what happens when you finally punch a bully back? They fold, or they escalate. Her expression was serious. We need to be ready for either. But my money's on fold. These people have never had anyone really fight back before. They're not prepared for someone like you, someone like me, someone with resources, intelligence, and nothing left to lose. That's a dangerous combination. As we drove home, I thought about all the families they'd destroyed. The Williamses, the Washingtons, the Martinezes, all good people who'd been crushed by this machine. Not us, not this time. They'd picked the wrong family. Indeed, the breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Rebecca had been digging into Dalton's medical records legally through a private investigator's database when she noticed a discrepancy. "Look at this," she said, sliding a printout across my kitchen table. "Dalton was treated at St. Mary's 2 days before he claimed you assaulted him. For what? Facial contusions and bruised ribs. The exact injuries he blamed on you." She smiled grimly. "But here's the interesting part. The attending physician made detailed notes. Dalton told her he'd been in a bar fight." My heart raced. "This proves he's lying. We need the doctor to testify." Her name's Patricia Morse. Dr. Patricia Morse worked a night shift at St. Mary's. Sarah knew her. Professionally, they'd served on a medical ethics committee together. When we approached her in the hospital cafeteria, she looked like she'd been expecting us. "I wondered when someone would ask about that night," she said, stirring her coffee nervously. "When I saw the news about your arrest, I recognized Dalton immediately. Same injuries, but the timeline was all wrong. You'll testify to that?" Patricia Knox asked. Dr. Morse hesitated. "I want to help, but..." She glanced around the nearly empty cafeteria. "The hospital board has been pressuring staff about cooperation with law enforcement. The board chairman plays golf with the mayor every weekend. They threatened you?" Sarah asked, incredulous. "Not directly, but to doctors who've testified against the city's interests in the past suddenly found their privileges under review. One lost his position." She met my eyes. "I have 2 kids in college. I can't afford to lose this job. What if we could protect you?" Rebecca offered. "Document everything. Ensure there's no retaliation." "How?" "I made a decision because we're going to expose all of them. Not just Dalton, not just Morrison. The whole corrupt system. When we're done, they'll be too busy trying to stay out of prison to come after you." Dr. Morse studied me for a long moment. "You really believe you can do that? They arrested me for a crime I didn't commit. They threatened my family. They've destroyed dozens of lives for profit." I leaned forward. "Yes, I believe we can do it. We have to." She pulled out her phone. I kept copies of everything. Photos of Dalton's injuries, his initial statement, even security footage of him walking into the ER. He was drunk. Admitted he'd been in a fight at Murphy's Tavern over a poker debt. "This is gold." Patricia Knox breathed. "With this evidence, any competent judge would dismiss the charges immediately." "But will we get a competent judge?" I asked. "Or one of theirs?" Dr. Morse looked at Sarah. "There's more. After Dalton left, I was curious about the fight, so I called my friend who works at Murphy's. The whole thing was caught on their security cameras. Dalton attacked some guy who accused him of cheating at cards. Beat him pretty badly before bouncers broke it up." "Where's that footage now?" Rebecca asked urgently. "That's the thing. The next day, someone from the health department showed up at Murphy's, found a dozen violations, and threatened to shut them down unless they cooperated with a police investigation. The owner deleted all the footage from that night." "Of course he did," I muttered. "But," Dr. Morse continued with a small smile, "Murphy's owner is paranoid about liability. He makes backup copies of any footage involving fights. Keeps them on a drive in his home safe. He told me this after a few drinks at a medical fundraiser." Rebecca was already standing. "I need to talk to this owner tonight. His name's Sean Murphy. Tell him Patricia sent you." And she looked at each of us. "Be careful. If they realize I'm helping you, we're all in danger." I reached across the table and squeezed a hand. "Thank you. This took courage. My ex-husband used to say I had more conscience than sense." She stood to leave. "Prove him wrong. Nail these bastards." As she walked away, Patricia Knox was already on her phone with her legal team. "We need to file a motion for discovery immediately. If they know we have a witness to Dalton's prior injuries, they might try to pressure her, or worse," Rebecca added. "I'll put surveillance on Dr. Morse tonight. If they make a move against her, we'll know." Sarah had been quiet throughout the meeting. As we walked to the car, she finally spoke. "That woman is risking everything to help us. We can't let her down." "We won't," I promised. "Every person who stands up makes us stronger. Chen Williams, the Martinezes, Dr. Moore's there, all counting on us to end this." "No pressure," Emma said from the back seat, attempting humor, but I could hear the strain in her voice. That night, as I reviewed Dr. Morse's evidence, I thought about courage. It was easy to be brave when you had resources, lawyers, and family support. But Dr. Morse, she was risking her career, her livelihood, her children's futures, all for strangers who needed help. If she could be that brave, how could we be anything less? David had always been the analytical one in our family. While I built things with my hands, he built cases with logic and evidence. Now, hunched over his laptop in my home office, he was building something that would destroy them all. "Marcus, come look at this." His voice had that excited edge that meant he'd found something significant. I leaned over his shoulder. The screen showed a map of our city, dotted with red pins. "What am I looking at?" "Every property that Pinnacle Development has acquired in the last 5 years. But watch this." He clicked a button, and yellow pins appeared. These are the properties where the owners faced legal troubles, arrests, code violations, lawsuits within 6 months before selling. The pattern was undeniable. Nearly every yellow pin sat next to a red one, 73%. David said that's how many property owners faced some kind of legal pressure before selling to Pinnacle. That's not coincidence, that's conspiracy. Emma walked in with coffee for us. She'd taken to helping with the research, her young eyes catching details we missed. Uncle David, can you overlay the development plans? Smart thinking. He pulled up another layer. The Riverside Gardens development spread across the map like a cancer, with my property sitting at its heart. They're not just random properties, Emma observed. They're all connected to the development zones. It's like they had a shopping list. Sarah joined us, having just gotten off a call with Chen Williams. Chen's willing to testify. So are the Washingtons. The Martinezes are scared but considering it. If we can show the pattern in court. David trailed off, fingers flying over the keyboard. Wait. He pulled up corporate records. Pinnacle Development LLC, registered in Delaware. But look at the registered agent. The name made my blood run cold. Richardson Legal Services. As in Mayor Richardson. Sarah asked his wife's law firm. She's been the registered agent for Pinnacle since its inception. David's grin was predatory. They're not even trying to hide it. They got sloppy. Rebecca burst through the door without knocking. We'd given her a key for emergencies. We have a problem. Dr. Morse just called. Someone broke into her office at the hospital. Nothing taken, but her files were scattered. Message received. Those bastards, I growled. It gets worse. Terry Kim is spooked. Says Morrison's been asking questions about him, about who he talks to. We might lose our inside source. Then we move fast, Patricia Knox said. She'd been quietly observing from the corner. David, can you create a visual presentation of this pattern? Something a jury can understand already on it. I've got charts, timelines, financial flows. I interrupted. He pulled up another screen. Every property purchased by Pinnacle was immediately leveraged for loans from Riverside Community Bank. Guess who sits on the bank's board? The mayor. Sarah guessed. The mayor, Morrison's ex-wife, and 2 of Pinnacle's shadow investors. They're using the properties as collateral to fund more acquisitions. It's a pyramid scheme with real estate. Emma had been furiously taking notes. So if we can prove the properties were acquired through criminal conspiracy, the whole financial house of cards collapses. David finished. Loans called in, assets frozen, criminal investigations triggered. We're not just talking about assault charges anymore. This is RICO territory. RICO, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. The law that took down mob families. They'll destroy us before we get that far, I said quietly. Maybe, Patricia admitted. But look at what you've already survived. False arrest, intimidation, vandalism. You're still standing. And now you're not alone. She was right. Chen Williams had started a Facebook group for Pinnacle's victims. 43 members and growing. The local news had picked up Emma's arrest video. 3 city council members had called demanding an investigation. We need one more piece, Rebecca said. Something that ties the mayor directly to the conspiracy. Everything else is circumstantial. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mr. Thornton. The voice was female, nervous. You don't know me, but I know about your situation. I used to work for the mayor's office. I have information about Pinnacle Development. I put her on speaker. Everyone in the room froze. What kind of information? Documents, emails, recording of meetings where they discussed acquiring resistant properties. I kept copies when I left. Insurance, you know. Why are you calling me? A long pause. Because they destroyed my family too. My husband owned a hardware store in the development zone. When he wouldn't sell, they had him arrested for tax evasion. He had a heart attack in custody. He died thinking he was a criminal. Sarah covered her mouth. Even Patricia looked shaken. What's your name? I asked gently. Maria Santos. No relation. To your investigator, Santos is common. Can we meet? I want to help, but I'm scared. Of course, I'll come to you tomorrow night. If I don't show, check the news for my name. She hung up. We sat in stunned silence. Then David spoke. If she has what she says she has, we win. Rebecca finished. But she's right. To be scared. Whistleblowers in this city don't have a great survival rate. Then we protect her, I said firmly. Set up a safe house, security detail. Whatever it takes. Emma raised her hand like she was in class. Dad, what if we stream the meeting like live on social media? They can't hurt her if thousands of people are watching. That single quotes as double quotes. Patricia paused, considering. Actually brilliant. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. As the team dispersed to prepare for tomorrow's meeting, I stood at my map, looking at all those red and yellow pins. Each one represented a family destroyed, a dream crushed, a life derailed. Tomorrow, we'd either start getting justice for all of them, or join them as casualties. But looking at my family, Sarah checking security cameras, Emma coordinating social media, David preparing legal documents, I knew we'd already won something. They'd tried to break us apart. Instead, they'd forged us into something stronger. Tomorrow, Maria Santos would tell her story, and maybe, finally, the pattern of destruction would end. Emma's arrest video exploded across the internet like wildfire. By morning, it had 2 million views and climbing. The comments section was a battlefield of outrage and support. "Dad, you need to see this," Emma said, laptop in hand. "A reporter from Channel 7 wants to interview us." And someone from the Washington Post called. The video was everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. My wrongful arrest had become a rallying cry against police corruption. The hashtag justice for Marcus was trending. Sarah looked worried. "This kind of attention, it could help, or hurt us." "It helps," Rebecca said confidently. "They operate in shadows. Exposure is their kryptonite." The first reporter arrived at noon. Maria Rodriguez from Channel 7 was young, hungry, and smelled blood in the water. "Mr. Thornton, your arrest has sparked a conversation about corruption in our city. What would you like people to know?" I looked directly into the camera. "This isn't just about me. 7 families have been destroyed by a conspiracy between city officials and developers. My arrest is just the latest attempt to steal property from honest citizens. Those are serious allegations. Do you have proof?" "We're gathering evidence, but ask yourself, why would they arrest someone with 12 alibi witnesses? Why set bail at $50,000 for a first offense? Why is my neighbor's brother-in-law the investigating detective?" Maria's eyes sharpened. "Detective Morrison is related to your accuser. Robert Dalton is married to Detective Morrison's sister. Dalton's wife sits on the planning commission that approved Pinnacle Development's projects. The mayor's wife is Pinnacle's registered agent. Connect the dots." The interview aired that evening. Within hours, 3 more victims had come forward. The phone didn't stop ringing, but it was Maria Rodriguez's follow-up investigation that blew everything open. She'd done her homework, interviewing the Williamses, the Washingtons, even tracking down the Martinezes in Arizona. A pattern of corruption. Her segment was called. She laid out the evidence with devastating precision. Properties marked on a map, families forced out, the same names appearing again and again. Morrison, Dalton, Richardson, Pinnacle Development. The mayor's office response was swift and predictable. "These are baseless allegations from a man facing serious criminal charges. The city stands behind its law enforcement officers." But the damage was done. The story was picked up nationally. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, everyone wanted a piece. My front lawn became a media circus. "Mr. Thornton, is it true the FBI is investigating Marcus? What's your response to the mayor calling you a conspiracy theorist? Will you be filing a civil suit?" Patricia Knox managed the media brilliantly. She fed them just enough information to keep the story alive while holding back our strongest evidence. "The truth will come out in court," became her mantra. Then came the protesters. They started gathering outside the police station. Dozens, then hundreds. Signs reading "End the corruption" and "Property rights matter" and how many more families. Emma had become an inadvertent social media manager. "Dad, we're getting support from housing advocates, civil rights groups, even some police reform organizations. They want to help." The pressure was building. 3 city council members called for an independent investigation. The state attorney general's office expressed concern. Even some police officers broke ranks. Officer Jenkins gave an anonymous interview about the department's unease with Morrison's methods. But the machine pushed back. A rival news station ran a hit piece on me, dredging up a decade-old dispute with a subcontractor. They questioned my mental health, my business practices, even suggested I was coaching Emma to lie. "Don't watch it," Sarah advised, but I needed to see what we were up against. The smear campaign was professional, thorough, and vicious. They'd found every disgruntled employee, every delayed project, every parking ticket. They painted me as unstable, violent, a danger to the community. "This is good," Patricia said, surprising us all. "How is destroying my reputation good?" "Because they're scared. This is desperation. They wouldn't go this hard unless they knew we had them." She was right. The next day, Maria Rodriguez revealed her source inside the mayor's office, not Maria Santos, but someone else. The whistleblower confirmed that emergency meetings were being held, documents were being shredded, and everyone was lawyering up. The mayor made a critical mistake. He held a press conference to denounce trial by media and defend the city's integrity. But he looked haggard, defensive. When asked directly about his wife's connection to Pinnacle, he stammered before saying, "No comment." "Blood in the water," David observed. "The sharks are circling." That night, as we prepared for Maria Santos's arrival, Emma showed me the latest numbers. 5 million views. International coverage, invitations to appear on major news shows. "We did it, Dad. We made them famous, the wrong kind of famous." I hugged my daughter, proud of her courage and ingenuity. She'd turned our nightmare into a weapon against those who'd caused it. Outside, news vans lined our street. Tomorrow, Maria Santos would provide the evidence to back up everything we'd exposed. Tonight, for the first time since my arrest, I felt hope. The community response was overwhelming. What started as my family's fight had become a movement. Chen Williams stood at my front door. No longer the broken man who'd fled 2 years ago. Behind him were a dozen others I recognized from the neighborhood, from the city, from lives torn apart by the same machine. "We're with you, Marcus," Chen said simply. "All of us." They filed into my living room, the Washingtons, elderly but determined, Jorge Martinez, who'd driven 10 hours from Arizona, families I'd never met but whose stories mirrored ours. Each carried folders, documents, evidence of their own ordeals. "They thought we'd stay scattered," Mrs. Washington said, her voice stronger than her frail frame suggested. "Thought shame would keep us quiet. They were wrong." Sarah had prepared coffee and sandwiches, but this felt more like a war council than a social gathering. Rebecca and Patricia took notes as each family shared their story, looking for patterns, connections, evidence we'd missed. The coalition grew beyond just victims. Judge Eleanor Patterson, retired but still influential, arrived with 3 other former judges. "The corruption in our courts has been an open secret for too long," she declared. "It ends now." The local contractors association voted unanimously to support us. Mike Rodriguez had rallied the trades, plumbers, electricians, framers, all who'd lost work when honest families were driven out and properties sat empty. "Pinnacle doesn't hire local," Mike explained to the group. "They bring in out-of-state crews, pay under the table. Every property they steal costs us jobs." Dr. Morse arrived with 6 other doctors from St. Mary's. "The hospital board tried to silence us," she said. "Instead, they united us. We have documentation of other victims treated for suspicious injuries, all connected to property disputes. Even unexpected allies emerged. A group of reform-minded police officers, led secretly by Officer Jenkins, fed us information about Morrison's unit. Most cops are good people," Jenkins had told Rebecca. "We're tired of the dirty ones making us all look bad." Sarah had transformed our dining room into a command center. Whiteboards covered the walls, showing connections, timelines, evidence chains. Emma managed social media, coordinating with advocacy groups nationwide. "Look at this," Emma announced. "The ACLU wants to file an amicus brief. The Institute for Justice is offering pro bono support. Even some celebrities are tweeting about us." But it was the financial support that truly stunned us. Chen Williams had started a legal defense fund. Within days, it had raised over $200,000. Small donations from around the world, $5, $10, $20 from people who'd faced their own Goliaths. "Every dollar is a vote of confidence," Patricia said, reviewing the accounts. "People believe in what we're doing." The coalition formalized itself as Citizens Against Corruption. Judge Patterson agreed to chair it, lending gravitas and legal expertise. They drafted a letter to the Department of Justice, signed by over 200 citizens, demanding a federal investigation. Local businesses joined. Murphy's Tavern, where Dalton had his real fight, offered their complete security footage. Owner had hidden more backups than anyone knew. 3 banks reported suspicious transactions involving Pinnacle. Even the newspaper's editorial board, long silent, published a scathing piece demanding answers. "They overreached," David observed during one strategy session. "If they'd just targeted a few families, they might have gotten away with it, but they got greedy." The coalition meeting that night was electric. Over 100 people packed into the community center, with more watching via live. Judge Patterson commanded the room. "For too long, we've allowed fear to divide us," she said. "But Marcus Thornton's courage has reminded us of a fundamental truth: we are stronger together than they are corrupt." The action plan was comprehensive. Daily protests at City Hall, petition drives for a recall election, coordinated media appearances, legal support for all victims, protection networks for whistleblowers. Jorge Martinez spoke last, his voice thick with emotion. "They took my reputation, my career, my home. I ran to Arizona thinking I could escape the shame. But there is no shame in being a victim. The shame belongs to them." As the meeting ended, I was overwhelmed by the support. Strangers had become allies, allies had become friends, and friends had become family. "You started something," Chen Williams said, shaking my hand. "But this is bigger than any one of us now. We're going to win because we're not fighting alone anymore." Outside, the media captured it, all citizens streaming out of the community center, united in purpose. The headline wrote itself: "David versus Goliath, a community rises." Morrison and his cronies had made a critical error. They'd created too many victims. Now those victims had found each other, found their voice, and found their power. The war was far from over, but for the first time, we had an army. Terry Kim looked different. When he contacted us again, exhausted, paranoid, but determined. We met at 2 a.m. in an abandoned warehouse his family used to own before Pinnacle forced him out. "Poetic justice," he'd called it. "They know I've been talking to someone," he said without preamble. "Morrison had me pulled into his office yesterday, asked about my outside activities. I'm done playing it safe." Rebecca checked her scanner for listening devices. We'd learned to be thorough. "What changed your mind?" "My daughter. She saw your interview. Mr. Thornton asked me why I wasn't brave like Emma's dad." He laughed bitterly. "How do you explain to a 7-year-old that daddy's a coward?" "You're not a coward," I said firmly. "You're here." Terry pulled out a flash. Doctor, 3 years of emails between Morrison, Dalton, and the mayor's office. I recovered them from the backup server. They thought they'd deleted everything, but ... He managed a small smile. They should have been nicer to their IT guy. Patricia Knox, who'd insisted on coming despite the risk, immediately began reviewing files on her laptop. Her expression shifted from professional interest to genuine shock. "My God," she breathed. "They documented everything. Look at this target, resisting acquisition. Recommend escalation pattern C that's dated 2 weeks before your arrest. Marcus, escalation pattern C." David asked. Terry navigated to another folder. They had playbooks. Pattern A was code violations. Pattern B was financial pressure liens, audits, credit destruction. Pattern C was criminal charges, and Pattern D. Rebecca asked quietly. Terry's face darkened. "Accidents. 3 people on this list died in accidents over the past 5 years." The warehouse fell silent. We'd suspected, but seeing it confirmed in black and white was chilling. This email chain. Patricia highlighted a thread. "They're discussing your case specifically." Marcus Thornton writes, "Thornton won't fold easily. High-profile target. Need airtight frame." Dalton responds, "Bar fight injuries still fresh. You can work with those DeMeyer?" I asked. "He's careful, uses coded language. But here, ensure Riverside Phase 2 proceeds as scheduled. Authorized to use all necessary resources." That's his personal email sent the day before your arrest. David was photographing everything. "This is conspiracy, racketeering, fraud, civil rights violations, murder," Terry added quietly. "If we can prove those accidents weren't accidents, why didn't you come forward sooner?" Sarah asked gently. Terry's shoulders sagged. "My wife works for the city too. My kids go to public school. Morrison made it clear: cooperate or join the victims. But watching you all fight back, seeing the community rally, I couldn't live with myself anymore." Rebecca had been quiet, studying the files. "Terry, this mentions a meeting tomorrow night. All the principals, discussing damage control and witness management. Nobody's innocent. Thornton, everyone's got dirt. Speaking of which, how's Sarah's medical license review going?" My blood froze. "What review? Oh, hasn't she heard? Seems there's been a complaint about prescription irregularities. Anonymous tip. These things can drag on for months, even years. Career-ending stuff. You son of a..." "And Emma, bright girl. Franklin High's valedictorian track, isn't she? Be a shame if her college applications got flagged for academic integrity concerns." I was on my feet now. Sarah fully awake beside me. "If you touch my family, I'm trying to protect your family. You stupid bastard, take the deal. $3 million for your property. Charges dropped. Life goes back to normal. You have 24 hours. I have a better idea. How about you turn yourself in, because the FBI will be knocking soon enough." Silence. Then quieter. "You have no idea what you're playing with. This goes so much deeper than you know. People with real power, real reach. I'm trying to save you." "From who?" "Your handlers. The people who really own Pinnacle." Another pause. 24 hours. Thornton. "After that, I can't control what happens." He hung up. Sarah was already checking her email. "There's a letter from the medical board. Dated yesterday but just arrived." Her face paled. "They're opening an investigation based on an anonymous complaint." Dad, Emma stood in our doorway, phone in hand. "I just got a weird email from school. Something about my scholarship essay being flagged for review. They were hitting us from every angle, just like Terry's documents had shown. Pressure points, everyone has them." "Family meeting," I said. Now we gathered in the kitchen. Emma, David via video call, even Rebecca, who'd been sleeping in our guest room for security. I placed the mayor's recorded call for everyone. "So that's it," I said when it finished. "We can fold and take their blood money, or we fight and risk everything." "We fight," Emma said immediately. "They're threatening me because they're scared. We must be close." Sarah was quieter. "A medical board investigation. Even if I'm cleared, it could take years. My reputation, my practice, ... They're counting on that fear," Rebecca said. "It's their main weapon. But here's what they don't understand: you're not alone anymore. The medical community is behind you. Judge Patterson knows judges on the medical board. We can fight this." David's voice crackled through the laptop. "I've already drafted cease and desist letters regarding the threats. Patricia's filing emergency motions, and Marcus that recording is gold. Clear extortion, witness tampering, conspiracy. But will it matter if they destroy us first?" Sarah asked. "Mom," Emma said firmly, "they've already tried to destroy us. Dad's in jail. Our house is vandalized. We're living like we're in witness protection. What else can they take?" "Our future," Sarah said quietly. "No," I pulled my family close. "Our future is fighting this. Our future is making sure no other family goes through what we have. They want us to be scared. Fine, I'm terrified. But I'm more angry than scared." The phone rang again. Patricia Knox. "Marcus, I just got word. The FBI wants to meet tomorrow. They've reviewed Terry's evidence and they're moving fast. Also, Judge Brennan just recused himself from your case. Seems someone tipped off the Judicial Ethics Committee about his Pinnacle connections. A spark of hope, so we're winning, we're bleeding them. But wounded animals are dangerous. Expect escalation." She was right. By morning, 3 city inspectors were at my door with a warrant to search my home for code violations. My business accounts were frozen pending a routine audit. Sarah's hospital suspended her pending the investigation. But something else happened too. Dr. Morse organized a walkout at the hospital in support of Sarah. Mike Rodriguez's construction crews surrounded the inspectors, documenting their every move. The Citizens Against Corruption Fund immediately offered to cover up living expenses. "They're trying to isolate us," Rebecca observed, watching the inspectors tear through our garage. "But it's backfiring. Every attack makes us more sympathetic, brings more support." That afternoon, Emma's principal called Mr. Thornton. "I'm required to inform you about this scholarship review, but off the record, it's garbage. Emma's one of our best students. The entire faculty supports her. Small victories, but victories nonetheless." That night, as we ate takeout in our ransacked home, I looked at my family. Sarah, suspended but defiant. Emma, threatened, but unbroken. We'd lost so much already, but we'd found something to the strength that comes from standing up to bullies. 24 hours, I said, remembering the mayor's deadline. "Think he'll actually call back?" "Who cares?" Emma said, stealing a piece of my orange chicken. "We've got the FBI now. Let him call record that too." Sarah laughed, her first real laugh I'd heard from her in weeks. "You know what? Emma's right. We've already lost our normal life. Might as well go down swinging." "That's my family," David said from the laptop screen. "Thorntons don't fold. We fight." 24 hours. The mayor had no idea what we could accomplish. In that time, the mayor called at 3 a.m. I'd been expecting something, but the directness still surprised me. Sarah stirred beside me as I answered. Marcus Thornton. His voice was different from his polished public persona, rougher, more desperate. "Mayor Richardson. Unusual time for a constituent call. Cut the shit. We need to talk. Man to man." Hit record on the app Rebecca had installed. "I'm listening." "You're making a mistake. This crusade of yours, it won't end well. Not for you, not for your family." "Is that a threat, Mayor?" "It's reality. You think you're some kind of hero. You're a nobody going up against the entire system. Drop the media circus. Drop the investigations, and we can make all this go away." "All what go away?" "The charges, the legal troubles. Hell, I'll even throw in a premium for your property. 3 times market value, cash. You could retire tomorrow, and all I have to do is abandon the dozens of families you've destroyed." His breathing got heavier. "Those families. Situations were complicated. You don't understand how this city works, how any city works. Development requires difficult decisions. Framing innocent people requires difficult decisions. Nobody's innocent, Thornton. Everyone's got dirt." Speaking of which, how's Sarah's medical license? The FBI arrived at dawn before the media's deadline. 6 agents in dark suits, led by Special Agent Diana Foster, a woman who looked like she could stare down death itself. "And win, Mr. Thornton," she said, showing her credentials. "We need to secure your evidence and your family. Now, what's happening?" "We're executing warrants across the city in approximately," she checked her watch, "17 minutes. City Hall, police headquarters, multiple residences. Your evidence triggered what we call a corruption sweep. They moved us to a secure location, a nondescript office building downtown. Terry Kim was already there with his family, looking relieved but exhausted. Maria Santos had finally surfaced, too, clutching boxes of documents. "You did it," she said to me. "You actually did it. They're finished." Agent Forster commanded the room. "What you've all provided gives us enough of federal RICO charges. But we need to move fast. These people have resources, connections. Some might try to run." The conference room became a war room. Agents interviewed each witness while others verified documents. The story that emerged was staggering in scope. Pinnacle Development was just the tip, Agent Forster explained, showing us charts that dwarfed even David's analysis. This corruption network extends to 3 other cities. Over $100 million in fraudulent property transfers, at least 40 families affected. "And the accidents?" I asked, thinking of Patton D. Her expression darkened. "Under investigation, we have forensic teams reviewing 3 suspicious deaths." At 8:47 a.m., our phones started buzzing. The raids had begun. News helicopters circled City Hall as agents carried out boxes. Mayor Richardson was led away in handcuffs, trying to shield his face from cameras. Detective Morrison's arrest at the police station caused near riots among officers, some cheering, others protesting. But it was the financial forensics that truly stunned us. Agent Foster pulled up records on her laptop. The mayor's wife alone had $2.8 million in offshore accounts. Morrison had $400,000 in cash hidden in his basement. "But look at this." She showed us wire transfers. The real money came from outside, a development consortium based in Nevada, connected to organized crime, the mob. Sarah gasped. "More like white-collar mob, corporate criminals who've perfected property theft through corruption. Your city was their test case for expansion." The revelations kept coming. Judge Brennan had taken bribes for 15 years. 3 city council members were on Pinnacle's payroll. Even the police chief had known about Morrison's activities but looked away for a cut. Emma, who'd been quietly documenting everything, raised her hand. Agent Foster, what about the other families, the ones who already lost their homes? Foster smiled, the first warmth I'd seen from her. Full restitution is part of our recommendation. Every family wronged will have their day in court. Civil suits will likely return millions. Maria Santos broke down crying. My husband died thinking he was a criminal. Will they clear his name? Already in motion, Foster assured her. All false charges related to this conspiracy will be vacated. Your husband will be officially exonerated. The phone in the center of the table rang. The mayor's 24-hour deadline. Agent Foster nodded for me to answer. Recording everything, Thornton. Have you considered my offer? The mayor sounded different, panicked, desperate. I have hard. The answer is no. You stupid, don't you know what you've done? These people don't forgive. You've signed your own. My Lord Richardson. Agent Foster interrupted, taking the phone. This is Special Agent Foster with the FBI. This call is being recorded. You're currently violating the terms of your bail by contacting a federal witness. I suggest you hang up and contact your attorney. Silence. Then a click. He's running, Foster said calmly. She spoke into her radio. Subject is mobile. All units be advised. They caught him at the airport, trying to board a private jet with 2 suitcases full of cash. The image of him being dragged back in handcuffs became the defining photo of the scandal. By afternoon, the scope was clear. 12 officials arrested, millions in assets frozen, properties across the city being returned to rightful owners. The corruption machine that had terrorized families for years was dead. Patricia Knox arrived with champagne and tears. Charges against you have been dropped. With prejudice, they can never refile your free markets. Free. The word felt foreign, after weeks of fighting, but looking around the room at Terry Kim reuniting with his daughter, at Maria Santos clutching her husband's exoneration letter, at my own family safe and vindicated, I realized we'd won more than freedom. What happens now? I asked Agent Foster. Trials. Lots of trials. You'll need to testify, all of you, but the hard part's over. The system that protected them is broken. And Pinnacle's developments, David asked. Frozen. The properties will be sorted out in court, but my guess, they'll be returned or compensated at fair value. Your neighborhood is safe. That evening, we returned home to find our street packed with celebrating neighbors. The Chins had returned from their exile. The Washingtons were crying with joy. Even the Martinezes were driving up from Arizona. Jorge Martinez embraced me, sobbing. You gave me my name back, my dignity. How do I thank you? You already have, I said, thinking of all the courage it took for each family to stand up. We all saved each other. The party lasted until dawn. Stories were shared, plans were made, hope was restored. The local news captured it all, a community reborn from the ashes of corruption. But it was Sarah who said it best. As we finally crawled into bed as the sun rose, they thought they could break us by threatening what we had. They never understood that fighting back would show us who we really are. And who are we? I asked. Survivors, family. She kissed me. And apparently, the people who brought down $100 million criminal conspiracy. Just another day in the life of the Thorntons. Emma called from her room, making us laugh. Just another day indeed. 6 months later, I walked into the federal courthouse wearing my best suit and the weight of dozens of families' hopes. The United States versus Richardson ETL had become the most watched trial in state history. The courthouse steps were packed. Media from around the world, supporters holding signs, the families who'd been wronged standing together, unified in their quest for justice. Ready for this? Patricia Knox asked. She'd transitioned from my defense attorney to helping the prosecution. Her knowledge of the case invaluable, as ready as anyone can be for facing down the people who tried to destroy their life. Inside the courtroom was standing room only. I saw them at the defense table. My Lord Richardson, aged 10 years and 6 months. Detective Morrison, no longer the swaggering bully. Dalton, who couldn't meet my eyes. 7 other defendants, each with their own team of lawyers. The federal prosecutor, James Chen, no relation to Chen Williams, though the coincidence wasn't lost on anyone, opened with devastating precision. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the evidence will show a criminal conspiracy that perverted justice, destroyed families, and stole millions through corruption and intimidation. At its heart was simple greed, dressed up as civic development. When my turn came to testify, I told our story from the beginning. The fence dispute, the escalating threats, the false arrest, Emma's terror, Sarah's strength, the community that refused to bow. Mr. Thornton, Chen asked, why didn't you just accept their offer? $3 million is life-changing money. I looked at the jury, then at the gallery packed with victims, because it wasn't just my life they were trying to change. Every dollar they offered was stolen from another family's dreams. I couldn't build my future on someone else's tragedy. The defense tried to paint me as a troublemaker, a publicity seeker, unstable, but the evidence was overwhelming. Terry Kim's leaked documents, the recorded conversations, the financial trails, The pattern of destroyed families. When Dr. Morse testified about Dalton's pre-existing injuries, his lawyer objected 17 times. Each objection was overruled. The truth was unstoppable, but it was Maria Santos who provided the trial's most powerful moment. She spoke about her husband, about the man who'd built his hardware store from nothing, who'd been framed and died in custody. They didn't just steal property, she said, tears streaming. They stole futures, they stole dignity, they stole lives. The defense's case was pitiful. They blamed each other, claimed ignorance, argued technicalities. Morrison insisted he was just following orders. The mayor claimed he knew nothing about the details. Dalton actually tried to argue that his fence placement was an honest mistake that spiraled out of control. During a break, Emma approached me. In the hallway, she'd been attending every day she could, documenting the trial for a school project that had become something more. "Dad, do you think they actually believe their own lies? I think they've been lying so long, they can't tell the difference anymore." The prosecution's closing argument was masterful. Chen walked the jury through each family's story, each destroyed dream, each life derailed. He showed the financial web, the profit margins written in human misery. This wasn't just crime, he concluded. It was a betrayal of everything our justice system stands for. These defendants turned the law into a weapon against the innocent. Today you can turn it back into a shield. The defense's closing arguments rang hollow. How do you defend the indefensible? How do you justify destroying families for profit? The jury deliberated for just 18 minutes. On the count of racketeering, we find the defendant, Mayor William Richardson, guilty, 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 guilty. 47 times the word rang out. Every defendant, every charge. The courtroom erupted. Families who'd suffered in silence for years wept openly. Chen Williams pumped his fist. The Washingtons held each other. Judge Patricia Hernandez, who'd been brought in from another district to ensure impartiality, spoke solemnly. "This court has witnessed corruption on a scale that shocks the conscience. The sentences will reflect the severity of these crimes." Richardson got 25 years, Morrison, 20, the others between 10 and 15. Dalton, who'd been the most hands-on in destroying families, received 18 years as they were led away. Dalton finally looked at me. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something I hadn't expected. Fear. Outside. The celebration was electric but tinged with reflection. Justice had been served, but it couldn't undo the pain. Couldn't bring back Maria's husband or the years stolen from so many. What now? Chen Williams asked as we stood on the courthouse steps. "Now we rebuild," I said. "We make sure this never happens again." Emma was interviewing families, her school project having evolved into a documentary. Sarah stood with Dr. Morse and other medical professionals who'd supported us. The community that had been fractured was whole again, stronger for having been tested. That night, we had a quiet dinner at home, just the three of us. Plus David, who'd flown in for the verdict. No reporters, no cameras, just family. "You know what the best part is?" Emma asked. "What's that?" "We can finally just be normal again. No more looking over our shoulders, no more fear." But Sarah shook her head. "We'll never be normal again. We've seen what happens when good people stay silent. That changes you." She was right. We'd been transformed by this experience, forged in the fire of injustice into something stronger. We'd learned that evil flourishes when good people do nothing, but also that when they stand together, no corruption can withstand their light. "To never being normal," David toasted. "To never being silent," I added. "To family," Emma concluded. "All of it. Blood and chosen." As we clinked glasses, I thought about that morning 6 months ago when they'd arrested me. I'd thought it was the worst day of my life. Now I knew better. It was the day we started fighting back. The day we chose courage over comfort. The day we won. The aftermath of the trial rippled through our city like an earthquake. Within days of the verdict, the FBI expanded their investigation. What we'd uncovered wasn't just local, it was a network that reached into state government and beyond. I was in my office, finally returning to normal work, when Agent Foster called. "Marcus thought you'd want to know. We just arrested 6 more officials, including 2 state senators. Your case broke open something huge." The dominoes kept falling. The state attorney general, who'd initially been reluctant to investigate, was found to have taken campaign contributions from Pinnacle's shadow investors. He resigned in disgrace. 3 judges in neighboring counties were removed from the bench. A congressional investigation was launched into systematic property theft across multiple states. But justice wasn't just about punishment, it was about restoration. Judge Hernandez appointed a special master to oversee restitution. Every family who'd lost property would be compensated. Not just market value, but damages for suffering, lost income, emotional distress. Chen Williams called me one evening, crying. "They're giving us our house back. Marcus, the exact house. Pinnacle never developed it, just kept it empty. We're going home." Similar stories poured in. The Washingtons received a settlement that would secure their retirement. The Martinezes were cleared of all charges and awarded enough to start over, this time on their own terms. Even families I'd never met reached out, thanking us for giving them hope to pursue their own justice. Sarah's medical license was fully reinstated with a formal apology from the board. The hospital not only lifted her suspension but offered her a position heading their new ethics committee. Turns out, she told me with a smile, standing up to corruption is good for your career. Emma's scholarship was not only restored but increased. Several colleges reached out, impressed by her courage and documentation of the trial. I think I want to study law, she announced at dinner. Maybe journalism too. This whole thing showed me how important it is to fight for truth. The city itself transformed. A new mayor was elected on a reform platform. The police department, when I underwent a complete overhaul, with Officer Jenkins promoted to help lead an anti-corruption unit. Building inspections were restructured with citizen oversight. The planning commission was disbanded and rebuilt with transparency requirements, but it was the personal reckonings that surprised me most. 3 weeks after the trial, I found Robert Dalton's wife at my door. Jennifer Morrison Dalton looked hollow, aged. I need you to know, she said without preamble. I didn't know how far it had gone. I thought it was just business, just development. I never knew about the threats, the frame-ups. She broke down. My children won't speak to me. My brothers, in prison because of me. I voted for those zoning changes. I enabled this. What do you want from me? I asked, not unkindly. Forgiveness, understanding, I don't know. Maybe just to say I'm sorry. To all of you, to all of them. She gestured vaguely toward the neighborhood. I was so focused on our success, our wealth, I never looked at the cost. The cost was everything to some people. I know that now. She left an envelope. It's not enough, but it's what I can do for the family's fund. Inside was a check for $500,000 in a letter, detailing everything she knew about other developments in neighboring cities. Another thread for the FBI to pull. The Citizens Against Corruption Coalition became a permanent watchdog organization. Judge Patterson led it with the wisdom of her years and the fire of renewed purpose. They monitored city contracts, attended every council meeting, and maintained a website tracking public officials' connections and conflicts of interest. Never again became their motto. Never again would shadows hide corruption. Never again would families face the machine alone. Mike Rodriguez's construction company got the contract to renovate the properties being returned to families. Seems right, he said. We rebuild what they tried to tear down. 1 year after my arrest, we held a commemoration, not a celebration. Too much pain for that, but a remembrance and a reckoning. Maria Santos spoke about her husband, now officially honored by the city he'd loved. A plaque was unveiled at City Hall, in memory of those wronged by corruption, in honor of those who stood for justice. Terry Kim, the quiet it guy who'd risked everything, had become a national expert on government transparency. He testified before Congress, advised other cities on preventing corruption, and never let anyone forget that ordinary people could do extraordinary things. Heroes aren't special, he said at the commemoration. They're just people who choose courage at the moment it matters most. As I stood before the crowd, looking at faces that had become family, I thought about the journey we'd taken, from a simple property dispute to exposing a criminal empire, from isolation to community, from victims to victors. They thought they could break us one by one, I said. They never imagined we'd stand together. They counted on our fear, our silence, our isolation. They never counted on our courage, our voices, our unity. That was their fatal mistake. The applause was long and heartfelt, but it was Emma who had the last word. Now 18 and headed to Columbia for journalism and pre-law, she'd produced a documentary that was being shown at film festivals. Dad taught me something important, she told the crowd. Evil isn't some abstract force. It's just people making selfish choices. But good isn't abstract either. It's people making brave choices every day. We get to choose which will be. As the event ended and families mingled, the Chuns with the Washingtons, the Martinezes with the Santos family, I realized this was the true reckoning. Not just the prison sentences or the restitution, but the transformation of a community from victims to guardians. We'd won more than justice. We'd won back our future. 5 years have passed since that Tuesday when police lights filled my driveway. I'm standing in my backyard, on the deck I finally built, looking at a fence that sits exactly where it should. It's a small thing, that fence, but symbols matter. Dalton's old house belongs to the New Inn family now. Refugees who fled their own country's corruption only to help us fight ours. They bought it at the court auction, using money from the restitution fund. Dalton himself has 3 more years in federal prison. His wife Jennifer remarried and moved away, but she still sends updates to the FBI about corruption in other cities. Redemption takes many forms. Sarah's medical practice has evolved. She still treats patients, but she also travels the country teaching medical ethics and institutional courage. First, do no harm, she tells audiences, includes not staying silent when you see harm being done. Emma graduated summa cum laude last month. Her documentary, The Pattern, won 3 national awards and is required viewing at several law schools. She's headed to Yale Law in the fall, planning to specialize in anti-corruption law. Someone needs to make sure the next generation of lawyers knows how to fight back, she says. The city has transformed beyond recognition. We have the lowest corruption index in the state, the highest transparency rating in the region. Property values have actually increased. Turns out, honest government is good for business. Tourism is up to. People come to see the city that cleaned house, that proved reform is possible. Chen Williams serves on the city council now. The Washingtons established a fund for families facing legal intimidation. Jorge Martinez moved back and coaches youth soccer again, this time with the full support of a community that knows his true character. Mike Rodriguez's construction company has grown into the largest in the region. Turns out, he jokes, when you refuse to pay bribes, you can offer better prices. He employs 50 people, including many who lost jobs when corrupt developers brought in outside crews. Terry Kim runs a nonprofit teaching government transparency. His daughter, now 12, wants to be just like Emma when she grows up. A truth, she says proudly. Maria Santos remarried. Last year, a fellow widower who'd lost his wife to medical neglect at an underfunded hospital. Together they advocate for systemic reform. Her husband's hardware store location is now a community center bearing his name. But perhaps the most surprising transformation has been Officer now Captain Carl Jenkins. He leads a police force that's become a national model for community policing and anti-corruption efforts. We learned the hard way. He says that a few bad cops don't just hurt civilians, they destroy the soul of the department. I still run Thornton Engineering, but it's different now. We specialize in public works projects with transparent bidding. No backroom deals, no inflated contracts. Just honest work at fair prices. It's more profitable than I ever imagined. Corruption, it turns out. It is expensive for everyone. David visits monthly from Chicago, where he's made his own mark taking on corporate corruption. You inspired me, he says. Showed me that the law isn't just about winning, it's about justice. Tonight, we're hosting a barbecue. It started as a small gathering but has grown into a neighborhood tradition. The Tunes bring their famous dumplings. The new gens contribute spring rolls. The Washingtons always handle dessert. Jorge Martinez provides music. Turns out, he's a talented guitarist. As I flip burgers and watch Emma debate legal theory with Terry Kim, I think about that morning 5 years ago. How terrified I was. How alone I felt. How certain I was that my life was over. I was wrong about everything except the last part. That life, the life of comfortable ignorance, of looking away, of assuming someone else would fix problems that life did end. What emerged was something better. A life of purpose, of community, of vigilance. Dad, Emma calls out, tell them about the time you recorded the mayor. I wave her off, but Sarah encourages the story. It's become legend now, told and retold, each time reminding us of what ordinary people can do when pushed too far. Judge Patterson, now 78, but still sharp as ever, raises her lemonade. To the fighters, she toasts. To those who refuse to be victims. To the communities that stand together, Chen Williams adds. To justice, Maria Santos says softly. To never forgetting, Terry Kim contributes. To the future, Emma finishes. And we all drink. As the sun sets over our reclaimed neighborhood, I realize this is the true resolution. Not the trials or the sentences or even the restitution. It's this a community that was broken and rebuilt itself stronger. Families that were scattered now bound together by shared struggle and triumph. A city that chose integrity over easy money. The fence that started it all stands quietly between properties. Properly surveyed and legally placed. Such a small thing to have triggered such massive change. But then again, most avalanches start with a single snowflake. My phone buzzes. Another city requesting advice on fighting corruption. Another family seeking help against intimidation. Another whistleblower needing protection. The work never ends because corruption never sleeps. But neither do we. Not anymore. You coming back to the party? Sarah asks, slipping her arm through mine. Just thinking, I say, about how they picked the wrong family, wrong neighborhood, wrong city. I smile. Wrong everything. She laughs. Their loss, our gain. Now come on. Emma's about to explain legal precedents to poor Mrs. Chen again. As we walk back to our guests, our family and all but blood, I know this story doesn't really end. It just transforms, spreads, inspires. Somewhere tonight, another family is facing their own Dalton, their own Morrison, their own corrupt system. But now they know it can be beaten. Now they know they're not alone. That's our real legacy. Not the buildings I've engineered or the cases won or the corruption exposed. It's the proof that ordinary people, standing together, can face down any evil and win. They picked the wrong family. They always do, in the end.